I want to start by saying I won't be using any real names whilst telling this, due to the nature of this and for my own peace of mind. When it comes to my experience, I didn't realize I was in danger until I was even afraid of being in my own house. When I think back on it now, the beginning feels staged, too perfect. Like a memory that's been edited to remove warning signs I should have seen, but they were there. I just didn't realize it at the time when I should have. I met Reese during a time in my life when I felt untethered. I'd recently got my new job, a new place, and then I met him. Everything seemed to be happening in quick succession and for the better. He seemed steady, attentive, focused entirely on me in a way that felt flattering instead of suffocating. He learned my routines quickly, what time I left for work, when I usually got home, what coffee I ordered, all the details. I mistook that attention for compatibility. I thought we were aligned. In reality, he was studying me. The first discomfort I remember is how quickly he inserted himself into my space. It wasn't dramatic, it was gradual. He was just there more often than I expected. On my porch when I came home, expecting me to drop everything at a hat to do things he'd planned without mentioning them to me. At the time, I told myself it was sweet. Like he just wanted to surprise me. I told myself I was lucky someone cared that much. But there was something beneath it. Something that became watchful. He became quietly critical of the people around me. Not aggressively, just enough to plant doubt in my mind. A comment about how my coworker looked at me for too long. A suggestion that my best friend didn't respect my relationship. A reminder that my sister always seemed to compete with me. Always negative. He never told me outright to cut them off at first, but he just made it emotionally exhausting to listen to and feel bad about myself. Over time, my world shrank. Not because he forced it to, but because resistance felt harder than compliance. It was easier to cancel plans with friends than to reassure him for hours afterwards. Easier to stay home than to deal with the aftermath. The first truly frightening moment happened in the middle of the night. I woke up for no clear reason. The way you sometimes do when something feels wrong. The room was dark, but then I saw it. There was a shape at the edge of the bed. A stillness of a figure. It was him sitting there. Not touching me, not speaking, just watching. He had a key. I'd given it to him weeks earlier without thinking. I remember how small and harmless that decision had felt. At the time, I went mad telling him how wrong that was and that it was not okay. After hours of arguing and him just saying he was just admiring my beauty and that he wanted to surprise me, promising never to do it again. I foolishly accepted what he said. But after that night, I started waking up. Even when he slept over, I'd wake up, checking if he was watching me. Sleep just didn't feel the same, as the thought had rooted itself in my mind. But the day the illusion finally cracked was when we argued over me having plans, and he locked me in my own house. The door locked, my own key taken off me, and that's when he laid his hands on me. A moment I won't forget. The shock and the pain as his balled-up hand knocked me to the floor. I was in shock. For a moment, I just sat there staring, trying to make it make sense. Then he told me I needed to calm down, as he apologized for hitting me. But I wasn't leaving until we sorted our issues out. I was done. I wanted him out, but he wouldn't leave, and he had my phone. And he wouldn't let me leave. I was a prisoner in my own house. The realization now that he believed he had the right to confine me is terrifying to look back on. For that night, stuck in the house with him, he framed it as fear of losing me, as a mistake made out of love. And again, promises he would never do these things again, that he would never lay hands on me. In the moment, wanting to believe him and fearful, I suppose, I agreed to move past it and give the relationship a chance. For a few weeks after, it changed, but that didn't last long. As the weeks moved on, the control again became more visible. He tracked where I was, questioned how long errands took. He became angry if I didn't respond quickly enough. He would show up places I hadn't told him about. The worst discovery came accidentally. He'd left his laptop open one evening while he showered. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for a charger. But on the screen was a folder filled with photographs. Photos of me. Photos I knew nothing about. Photos taken through my living room window. Photos of me watching television, standing in my kitchen, unaware that someone was watching from the dark. Even photos of me sleeping. The timestamps stretched back months. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it. That was when I knew that the version of him I thought I knew had never existed at all. I didn't mention what I'd seen, as I didn't know how he would react, so I waited until the next day when he left, and I ended the relationship. I didn't scream. I just told him what I saw, and I told him it was over for good. And he again tried to justify what he had been doing, justify the pictures and that I had gotten the wrong idea. I didn't listen. There was nothing to listen to. And as I ended the call, I thought clarity would protect me and we would just move on with our lives. But that was foolish of me. All it did was escalate. At first, it was relentless contact. Messages from new numbers after I blocked the old ones. Emails long enough to scroll for minutes. Then the tone changed. Less pleading to more cold, angered messages. Vile things of what he was going to do, how he was going to make me pay for the heartache, and how he would hurt me. That if he ever saw me with anyone else, they would end up missing. That's when the photos started again. I would receive envelopes through my door. The first one was me entering the grocery store. The timestamp was less than an hour earlier. Then one at the gas station. Then one walking into work. A photo of us, with my face scratched out. There was never a message attached. That was the point. The silence was the message. He just wanted me to know he was close and that he could reach out at any time. I got a camera installed outside the house. I changed my number, adjusted my privacy settings, told my workplace security about him, filed reports, but he always found a way. When I wasn't home, I'd receive things on my windscreen, messages of unknown numbers, but I knew it was him. It was obsession, and I couldn't take it. I contacted the police again to report it, but they just told me I needed real proof, that it was definitely him before they could do anything. Real help. I made the decision to move, for my own sanity. I thought distance would dissolve whatever fixation he had built around me, and if he didn't know, he couldn't locate me. Months after moving, I received a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph of me walking to the store. It wasn't close-up. It was taken from across the street, which meant he had been there. My world was caged, and I needed to escape. I did the only thing I could think of as a last resort, and that was to bait myself. With the help of a friend, I planned to go out somewhere open, so I planned to go to a local shop. I would have my friend get there first, park up, and watch out for me to sit in their car and wait. Not long after I'd arrived and entered, he arrived. He had turned up and was clearly stalking me. This was the moment I needed. My friend called the police to report it, and luckily, in a timely fashion, they arrived. I acted normal whilst inside to limit suspicion, and as my friend entered with the police, she pointed him out. He was clearly startled. I finally saw him there with my own eyes as the police questioned him. He, of course, denied everything and claimed it was a coincidence. Luckily, their gut told them differently, and it was found he had pictures of me on his phone from inside the store. It was also found that he had placed an AirTag on my car, helping him to track my movement. I broke down when I saw him arrested, finally, after the hell he had put me through. The restraining order took time. The documentation, the proof. I gathered everything. Emails, photos, messages. The court process was exhausting, but I remember feeling almost detached during it, like I was presenting evidence about someone else's life. When the order was granted, I expected relief. What I felt instead was vigilance, because paper doesn't stop someone who doesn't believe rules apply to them. It's been 2 years since the last confirmed contact. No envelopes, no sightings. But sometimes, I still wake up at night, convinced someone is in the room. Sometimes, I catch myself scanning parked cars to see if anyone is sitting inside. The hardest part isn't the fear, it's the realization of how gradually it happened, and what he was willing to do. I'm finally moving on with my life now, and in a better and happier place. But the thought always sits in the back of my mind, that he'll one day be there. Please remember to always pay attention to the red flags. I didn't at first, and I paid the price. Firstly, this isn't exaggerated for attention, but everything I go through here happened, and is something that will stick with me. I still don't know how much worse it might have become if I hadn't ended it when I did. It happened just over a year ago now, when I dated Scarlett. It didn't last long, and I ended it in just under 8 months, and you'll see why. When it comes to her, she grew up in a small town in southern Louisiana. The kind of place swallowed by the bayou, and everyone knew everyone in some sort of way. When she moved to my city for work, she was different, and you could see that. I met her in a bar one evening, and we got talking. She had a soft, deliberate way of speaking, as if every word was selected carefully before release. She was cute and quiet. Most people described her as shy or reserved, maybe a little strange. There was something about her. I thought she was interesting and wanted to know more. That's when we started to get to know each other and went on a few dates. She rarely spoke about her past, instead offering only fragments. An aunt who raised her near the water, a childhood home surrounded by marshland, a father who left early and was never mentioned again. And when I asked for details, she would smile vaguely and say she didn't remember things the way other people did, as though memory itself followed different rules for her. As time went on, we started dating. Early on, her affection felt intense but flattering. She liked tracing the veins in my arms with slow, absent-minded focus, pressing her ear to my chest for long stretches without speaking, inhaling deeply at my neck and jaw, as if memorizing something invisible. She once told me that everyone has a true scent beneath soap and cologne, and that most people never learn how to recognize it. And while I brushed it off at the time, she never did. She cooked constantly. At first, I found it romantic. Who wouldn't want to be cooked for? The way she would show up with groceries already planned out, filling my kitchen with smells that were rich and unfamiliar. She made stews that simmered for hours. Slow roasted cuts of meat glazed in dark reductions. Sausages she claimed were family recipes passed down from her aunt. The flavors were intense, almost intoxicating. Sweet and savory with an undercurrent I couldn't place. Something slightly metallic that lingered at the back of my tongue. There were several meals where I paused halfway through because I couldn't identify what I was eating. The texture was tender and fatty in the right places, but there was something different about the grain of it, something subtly off in the chew. When I asked her what cut it was, she would smile gently and tell me it was pork, sometimes specifying shoulder or belly. And she would watch me carefully as I finished my plate, her expression attentive in a way that made me feel observed rather than cared for. At the time, I told myself I just wasn't used to her style of cooking. Looking back, I don't think it was pork. The first real shift came in how quickly she tried to merge our lives. She insisted on cooking for me nearly every night, stocking my fridge with labeled containers, and glass jars of homemade preserves that required refrigeration. She asked for a spare key under the pretense of emergencies, and began leaving pieces of herself in my apartment. Sweaters draped over chairs, hair ties in my bathroom drawer, small folded notes tucked between couch cushions. It felt domestic at first, almost comforting, but she reacted strongly whenever I disturbed that arrangement, as though moving her belongings disrupted something deliberate. One afternoon, I cleaned out my refrigerator and threw away an unmarked jar of something dark and gelatinous that had no label and no recognizable smell beyond sweetness masking rot. And when she discovered it was gone later that evening, her expression didn't register anger so much as genuine grief. She stood in front of the open fridge, staring at the empty space where it had been, and the look she gave me made it clear that I'd discarded something far more important than leftovers. After that, she began labeling everything carefully. Her possessiveness developed in subtler ways. She never outright forbade me from seeing friends, but she developed sudden illnesses whenever I made plans without her. Migraines that forced her to lie motionless on my couch. Waves of nausea that required me to stay close in case she fainted. And when I went out anyway, messages would arrive, not accusing me of wrongdoing, but observing me with unsettling precision, commenting on how fast I drank when nervous, or how I stood slightly angled when uncomfortable. She was always accurate in ways she shouldn't have been. Around the 4th month, her behavior turned physical in ways that unsettled me. She began biting me during sex. I know that can be usual and not a problem, but it wasn't just that. It wasn't hard enough to break skin, but firm enough to leave impressions, shaped like teeth along my shoulders and collarbone. Marks that lingered for days. When I protested, she apologized softly, and promised it wouldn't happen again. But the next time it happened, she explained that she needed something to remember me by. Remember me by? As if memory required pressure. Not long after that, I realized she was collecting my things. Strands of my hair wrapped neatly in tissue paper inside her jewelry box. Nail clippings stored in a matchbook. An old bandage I'd discarded after cutting my hand, folded carefully inside her purse. She kept them organized, preserved, almost curated. When she caught me looking, she dismissed it quickly, saying it wasn't what it looked like, and simply I didn't belong to the world the way other people did, and that she wanted to keep the parts of me that the world shed without noticing. That, to me, was just flat out fucking weird. I got to the point where I didn't feel comfortable, so that's when I decided it wasn't working out. The breakup itself was calm on the surface. I told her I felt suffocated, that I needed distance, and that whatever we had wasn't healthy. And she listened without interruption, nodding slowly as if processing a puzzle. But something in her expression sharpened. Not anger, but resolution. She kissed my cheek before leaving. That night, I slept without incident. The next morning, my apartment smelled wrong. Sweet and coppery beneath artificial fragrance, and my bedroom door was open even though I always closed it before bed. On my pillow was an old college t-shirt that I hadn't seen in months, damp and warm, saturated with her perfume. Beneath it was a note telling me I had forgotten this part of myself. After the breakup, she lingered in my life through calls, texts, and tried stopping by my apartment as if everything was normal. What worried me was when my neighbor spoke to me, saying he heard footsteps above him at 2 or 3 in the morning that woke him and asked what I was doing at that hour. I knew I was asleep. My mind instantly drifted to the footsteps being her. Maybe she had got a cart of the spare key I gave her before giving me the spare back. I couldn't accuse her of that, but it did make me change the locks. The messages began after that. They weren't apologies. They were recipes. Preservation techniques. Marinating times. Notes about tenderness and how stress toughens meat. About how fear alters flavor. She wrote about how I would taste if I stopped fighting, how she wanted me to become part of her permanently, how consumption was the purest intimacy. One message mentioned that she had already shared meals with me more intimately than I realized. That instantly made me think of the meals she cooked me, how I couldn't place some of them, and what they were. I felt physically sick. What was she implying? What the fuck had I ate, and what did she mean by consumption was the purest intimacy? That was when I stopped sleeping, on edge completely, lying with one eye open, fearing I'd wake up with her over me with a butcher's knife. That's how the messages made it sound. One day, a package arrived at my apartment with no return address. Inside was a sealed glass jar, filled with something dark suspended in cloudy liquid, with my name written carefully across the lid. I didn't open it. I didn't know what it was, and I don't want to know. That's when I decided to move and rent somewhere new. I didn't feel comfortable with her knowing where I lived. I don't know why, but I didn't go to the police about things. I felt, as a man, I could fix it myself. Stupid, I know. Moving worked. I never received any mail, and she obviously didn't know where my new place was. I got a new phone, with a new number, and started anew, so she didn't have my contact details. I know that is not a solution, but I take it she got bored, and has since moved on with her life, or moved back to her hometown. I don't know. I fully believe she was a cannibal. I'm sure of it. Sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I remember the taste of those meals. The metallic undertone, the way she watched me chew. And I feel sick with the possibility that I may have eaten something I can't comprehend. I think back to the things she said, the biting and the messages, and think, did she truly mean what she said when she said consumption is the purest of intimacy? You truly don't know the real person in the early stages of a relationship. So, please, be careful out there.
Thank you for joining us and watching this chilling video. We hope you enjoyed this topic and you found the fear within. What other subjects would you like to hear soon? Let us know in the comments what creeps you out. If you're new here, say hello. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Become a part of the Horror Motives world. See you soon with another terrifying video.